like you said, their interest is to ensure that they have capacity to be paid. Now, you talked about the employers making a deduction of 10%. Even with the existing pension fund, we have some employers that make deductions but don't remit. Now, how are you going to enforce? Because enforcement is the problem.
Sure.
They deduct and they don't remit.
Sure. I think it's important for me to clarify that NELFUND is not a law enforcement agency. We operate within the law. We're guided by the law, but we will work very closely, as we're already doing with law enforcement agencies, to ensure that there's no fraud within the fund or coming into the fund. When we get to the other end, and what you've just described now is non-compliance by organizations.
Exactly.
Again, it's not unique to Nigeria, but you have laws so that you can enforce and prosecute those who break them. We are not a law enforcement agency. However, we will partner with the law enforcement agencies in this specific regard to ensure that we are able to ensure that the taxpayer, the Nigerian citizen who's contributing to this, is not shortchanged.
Okay. All right, talk to us about other sources of funding. We understand that the EFCC also donated about 50 billion naira to the fund. What other sources of funding is NELFUND, seeking to generate its funds aside the federal government? Is there any other fund?
Sure. So the law requires the Federal Inland Revenue Service to provide 1% of its collected revenues to the fund. That's what the law says. The President, in his magnanimity, has gone ahead of that and ensured that there have been certain interventions to ensure that this could take off in time, so that it can bed in time. We're grateful for that. The law itself allows NELFUND to go and source for funding in different places. As long as it's clean, legitimate funds, NELFUND can receive the funds. So organizations who wish to donate to NELFUND can. Other interested parties can. We've already had some people who took loans in this country 30, 35 years ago, 40 years ago, who have started returning the loan to NELFUND because they have confidence and trust. That's why we've decided that in order for us to be able to attract funding that's non-governmental, we'll have to be very transparent about the funds we have, how we're deploying them, who the beneficiaries are. We're trying to ensure that this organization has or is transparent so that, to your point, Tijesu, we can attract the funds that are required. The less dependent this institution is on government over time, the better for the sustainability of it. It's not easy, but we're going to do it. We're going to achieve what we need to achieve. I hope I answered your question.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm talking about sustainability, just like closely tied to what she just asked. What if somebody wants to be part of this? What are the process? What are the steps they will need to go through to be able to make donations to this fund? Because we must find the means whereby this fund is sustainable. For instance, if those who loaned do not pay back, we must have sufficient money to give out to students. So what are those processes?
Sure. So it's a very simple process.
Okay.
And essentially what we need to do is go out and make people aware that actually you can donate to NELFUND. I'll tell you how simple it is. It's not complicated at all. We will have accounts where we will be able to receive donations. But remember, people who make donations sometimes have special conditions attached. They might say these funds are for people with disabilities. They might say these funds are specifically for women. They might say these funds are specifically for people in a certain part of the country. We must allow people to make those donations and live up to and honor whatever it is that they've written down or have stated to be the conditions. But in terms of receiving funds, it's very simple. There's a bank account, funds will be paid into it, and those funds will be judiciously monitored, managed, and the respect given to those who donate it or the terms and conditions for providing those funds will be honored. What is left is for us to go out and begin to advertise the fact that we are wanting these funds to come in. We haven't started doing that yet because we've got to set up a proper governance structure around it. It has many implications when you take monies from government anyway, but even more complications when you're taking money as government from the private sector. We have to put the plans, the governance structure in place to accommodate that. We're working through that at the moment. We'll go to our board, we'll get some sort of ratification around it, and then we'll move forward. We have a very strong board, very strong institutional members. So we also take advice from those who are there to help us with how we go about doing this.